FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
And the biggest change from 2000 to 2005 was the progressive alienation of Justice O'Connor from the Bush administration. And you see that the 2000 to 2005 court was a more liberal court than it was from 86 to 2000, mostly because of O'Connor's change. Look at the decisions after 2000. Struck down the death penalty for the mentally retarded. Struck down the death penalty for juvenile offenders. Lawrence v. Texas, the famous gay sodomy case that overturned a fairly recent precedent, Bowers v. Hardwick, saying that the states could no longer outlaw consensual gay sex. They saved affirmative action in the University of Michigan law school case, and in case after case, they ruled against the Bush administration in the Guantanamo Bay cases. All of those decisions with Justice O'Connor in the majority. What was it that alienated Justice O'Connor so much? Well, it was several things. One was John Ashcroft. Sandra O'Connor is a Republican and a very proud one, former majority leader of the Arizona State Senate. But she's a very specific kind of Republican. She's a Goldwater Republican. She's more of a libertarian Republican. And John Ashcroft was not her kind of Republican, and that his appointment offended her. She didn't like the way the war on terror was being conducted. She didn't like the war in Iraq. And above all, O'Connor didn't like an event that I think, as we look back on this era, will loom larger historically than it may seem today, and that's the Terry Schiavo case. That had a big impact on Justice O'Connor. And it wasn't just political for her, because the tragedy of Justice O'Connor is that as she was pulling away from O'Connor, from the Rehnquist court, or from the Bush administration, sorry, her husband was slipping into the grip of Alzheimer's disease. And she, at first, he started coming to court with her every day and monitoring, so she could keep an eye on him. But he started doing what Alzheimer's patients sometimes do, which is he started wandering, and it became untenable for her. And in 2005, she went to her old friend, Chief Justice Rehnquist, and she said, "I can't do this anymore. I have to leave to take care of John." And she did, and she left. Interesting question. How many male Supreme Court justices in history would have made that decision? I can't say, but I have a guess. In any case, she left. But if you recall, her leave-taking from the court was rather extended. She announced her intention to retire in June of 2005. President Bush named John Roberts to replace her. All through the summer, the confirmation hearings were planned. Then over Labor Day weekend, William Rehnquist died. So Bush named Roberts to replace Rehnquist, and O'Connor had to wait. Those hearings, that vote went forward. Then President Bush named Harriet Miers to replace O'Connor. That tragicomedy took a little more than a month to resolve itself. And then finally, Alito was named. Hearings were held, and he was confirmed. It was nearly a year that O'Connor had to wait to leave the court. And during that many months, that was the time that John O'Connor slipped completely into the grip of Alzheimer's disease. So simultaneously, Justice O'Connor lost her beloved seat on the court and lost her beloved husband. It's just an extraordinary story. And so the question now is, what happens? Well, we have two new justices, and the court is a different place. And these justices reflect that George W. Bush's Republican Party is not Ronald Reagan's or George Herbert Walker Bush's or Richard Nixon's Republican Party, because John Roberts and Samuel Alito are much more conservative, simply put. And last June, you only had to see the last day of the term when Stephen Breyer, a very chipper, optimistic person in most circumstances, said from the bench in despair after the Louisville and Seattle school integration cases,